It started quietly with a single image, one photograph, shared on a small Facebook page that would soon ignite an entire online community. Within hours, the comment sections filled with speculation, arguments, theories, and disbelief. The name at the center of it all was one the internet knew well: Timmy Whittaker. For years, the Whittakers had existed in a strange space between fascination and tragedy, a family from odd West Virginia whose story was first told through the lens of shock, but slowly transformed into something deeper, something that exposed how little most people understood about poverty, isolation, and mental health. Yet even as time passed, people kept watching, waiting for updates, for answers, for closure. And then one picture appeared. The image showed a man standing inside what looked like a grocery store, the fluorescent lights overhead, the dull hum of refrigeration units, a row of carts pushed neatly against the wall next to him, a woman mid-step, as if unaware the camera existed, and in the center of the frame, the figure everyone believed to be Timmy Whittaker. He wore a dark jacket and loose pants, his hair cropped shorter than before, his face rounder, older, and there above his lip a mustache, faint but visible. The expression on his face was calm, almost cheerful. He was holding what looked like a shopping basket, the kind you grab when you plan to buy only a few things. Within minutes, the internet divided one half, convinced it was proof that Timmy was alive, well, and out in the community, the other half insisting the photo was staged, old, or possibly fake. The post came from a Facebook user named Amy, a woman whose profile suggested she lived near Beckley, West Virginia. Her caption was brief: "Just saw this today. Looks like Timmy." She didn't claim to have taken the picture. She didn't say where or when it was captured, but that didn't matter. The image carried its own power. It felt like a revelation to some and a violation to others. Across dozens of groups and pages, the photo spread like wildfire. People zoomed in on the pixels, comparing facial features, searching for clues. One user posted, "Look at the ears, that's Timmy, no doubt about it." Another responded, "Could be anyone. People need to stop spreading fake info." Others asked, "Who took this? Where is he? Why is he shopping? Is he in a group home? Or is he free?" By midnight, hundreds of comments flooded Amy's posts, some sympathetic, others cruel. Accusations flew that she was exploiting the family for attention, while others thanked her for the update, calling a sign of hope, one that maybe after years of silence, the Whittakers were rebuilding their lives away from the cameras and the chaos. Then Amy did something unexpected. She turned off her comments. That simple action only fueled more speculation. People began messaging her directly, some begging for details, others threatening to report her page. Within hours, screenshots of her post appeared on YouTube, Reddit, and TikTok, with creators dissecting the story like detectives in a true crime case. They slowed the image, they brightened the colors, they compared it to still frames from the original documentary. Some even ran AI facial matches, claiming statistical proof it was Timmy. But the truth remained uncertain, and the more people looked, the less anyone seemed to know. The debate wasn't just about a photograph. It was about what the image represented: a man whose family had become a mirror for the public's curiosity and guilt. Timmy Whittaker was never an actor or a celebrity. He was a human being who happened to exist at the intersection of fascination and compassion. But when someone posted that photo, the question wasn't only whether it was real, it was whether people should have shared it at all. Meanwhile, a few locals from Odd began chiming in quietly. Some claimed they had seen Timmy around town months ago. One woman wrote, "I saw him and his caregiver at the dollar store last winter. They looked happy." Another posted, "He lived in a group home near Beckley. My cousin knows the staff." Yet none of these statements could be verified. The county records were sealed. Privacy laws prevented officials from saying anything at all, and so speculation filled the void like water, seeking cracks in stone. As online discussions grew louder, others pointed to the ethical dilemma. People talked about HIPAA, the federal law protecting medical privacy, and began arguing whether sharing Timmy's photo was illegal or immoral. Psychologists weighed in, saying the real issue wasn't legal, but human dignity. One wrote, We have turned people into permanent characters in a digital play that they never agreed to be in. Still, the photo spread, shared by curiosity, reposted by care, amplified by algorithms. By morning, it had reached thousands. And then came the deeper question: if the image was real, what did it mean for Timmy and for the rest of the Whittaker family? For years, their story had been tangled in mystery. After the documentary crew filmed In Odd, the family became subjects of endless fascination. Videos were made, reactions were recorded, and yet when the cameras left, so did clarity. No one really knew what happened next, where they lived, who cared for them, or how they were doing. And for many online viewers, that lack of closure became unbearable. That's why this one photograph mattered so much, because for those who followed their story, it wasn't just an update. It was contact, a glimpse into lives that had disappeared from view. But to others, it was intrusion, a reminder that the internet's appetite for information often outlasts compassion. In one viral post, a commenter wrote, "People need to stop treating them like exhibits. This isn't entertainment. These are real people." Yet right beneath that, another replied, "We love them. We just want to know they're okay." That tension between care and control, between empathy and exploitation, sits at the center of the Timmy Whittaker story. And this new photo was pulling that conflict into the open again. As more people began investigating the origins of the picture, some noticed the reflection in the store glass behind Timmy, a faint outline of the person holding the phone, possibly a woman wearing a blue jacket. Another clue suggested it had been taken discreetly without consent, and yet that didn't stop the theories from spreading. People posted side-by-side comparisons of Timmy's face from the documentary and from the photo, circling features, matching angles, even speculating about the color of the flooring to determine the location. Some claimed it was a Walmart, others said Kroger, others Dollar General. Every aisle became evidence, every reflection a clue. By day 2, Amy's profile vanished from Facebook, deleted or deactivated. No one could confirm which, but before disappearing, she posted one final message: "I didn't mean harm. I just thought people would be happy to see him. I didn't take it. I just shared what was already online." And with that, the thread went cold. But the internet doesn't let things die easily. YouTubers began releasing new videos claiming insider information about Timmy's current situation. Some said he lived in a foster home for adults. Others insisted he had been placed in a county facility or was receiving assisted living care. One even suggested he was under a guardian program run by a local agency. No one produced proof, but the tone of certainty made their words sound like fact. Meanwhile, fans of the original documentary felt torn. They wanted updates, but not like this, not in the form of leaked photos and online arguments. One fan wrote, "We should respect their privacy, but I can't help looking. I care too much." Another simply said, "I just hope he's safe." Behind the screens, real people were talking. Two social workers in West Virginia discussing the challenges of adult guardianship programs, journalists debating ethics in reporting on vulnerable communities, families wondering what would happen if their own loved ones were suddenly thrust into viral fame without their choice. The conversation had moved far beyond Timmy. It had become a case study in how digital empathy can blur into digital obsession, how curiosity meant as care can turn into surveillance, how a single click can turn a quiet life into a public debate. Yet amid all the noise, one truth remained impossible to ignore. The photograph existed, whether old or new, true or false. It had reignited a global conversation about the Whittakers, a family that had once been a symbol of human endurance, and now again stood at the crossroads of compassion and controversy. And somewhere in odd West Virginia, maybe behind a quiet window or inside a small store, someone knows the truth about that image. Someone knows where and when it was taken, and whether the world just saw a glimpse of Timmy Whittaker's present or a shadow from his past. As online debates grow louder, the question lingers in the silence between posts: who are we really helping when we turn someone's life into a mystery to solve? If you believe stories like this deserve truth, and compassion comment down below. The photograph had become more than an image. It was a storm of digital wildfire that refused to die, and at the center of it all a man who never asked to be a symbol or a spectacle. Timmy Whittaker, the quiet face of a loud debate, now pulled once again into a world he never entered willingly. As the days passed, what began as curiosity turned into investigation. Entire Facebook groups dedicated to the Whittakers shifted their focus to what they now called the Timmy photo case. People treated it like evidence, not empathy, zooming, enhancing, analyzing each pixel as if truth could be mined from a screen. Some believed the image was recent proof that Timmy was alive and adjusting to a calmer life outside of odd West Virginia. One comment read, "Look at his eyes, he looks healthier, he looks happy. Maybe he's finally getting the care he needs." Another insisted, "No, that picture's years old. Look at the store floor tiles, those haven't been used since 2019. Every detail became a clue, every reflection an accusation. And as the arguments deepened, so did the division between those who saw the photo as a gift and those who saw it as an intrusion. The original post by Amy had vanished, but the digital fingerprints it left behind spread across platforms. Screenshots on Reddit, videos on YouTube, reposts on TikTok, each one adding a layer of noise over a simple question: was the picture real or fake? A YouTuber known for covering Appalachian stories released a 20-minute breakdown of the image. His thumbnail showed a split-screen Timmy's known photo on the left, the alleged new one on the right, red circles drawn around matching features. He spoke with the slow intensity of a detective narrating a mystery. The jawline matches, the eyes are the same distance apart, the hair shorter, but consistent with age progression, he said. But the lighting doesn't match, the reflection doesn't align. Something's off, maybe the image has been tampered with. The video reached over 200,000 views within days, and in the comments people argued with equal passion about pixels and privacy. One person wrote, "It doesn't matter if it's real, what matters is we're talking about them again. Maybe someone will help them." Another replied, "Talking isn't helping, it's just feeding the machine." Meanwhile, offline life in Odd continued quietly. The dirt roads winding through the Appalachian Hills, the worn houses, the familiar stillness of a place where news travels faster by word of mouth than by internet connection. For locals, the online storm felt distant, yet intrusive. People in nearby towns began noticing outsiders, asking questions. Strangers parked near the old Whittaker home, taking photos, hoping for a glimpse of something authentic. One resident told a local paper, "These folks don't understand. Odd ain't a zoo. These are real people trying to live their lives." Another added, "The Whittakers been through enough. We don't need the world poking around again." Yet the curiosity wouldn't fade, because for many watching from afar, Timmy's story wasn't just his. It was a symbol of resilience, of misunderstanding, of how isolation breeds both myth and empathy. The same forces that had drawn millions to their original story now turned their attention to this one photograph. In the absence of answers, speculation thrives. Some claimed the photo was leaked by a facility worker. Others believed it was staged to calm public curiosity. One even proposed that it was an AI-generated composite designed to reignite engagement with the Whittaker name, a digital ghost meant to stir emotion and clicks. A journalist from Charleston began reaching out to local agencies, hoping for verification. Calls went unanswered, emails bounced back. One social services representative finally responded, "We cannot confirm or deny any details regarding private citizens under care." And that was the end of a wall of bureaucracy standing guard over a man who had become a mystery. Meanwhile, across the internet, discussions about HIPAA laws flooded forums. People wanted to know if sharing the image was illegal. Psychologists and legal experts joined in explaining that privacy laws protect against leaks from institutions, not individuals, meaning that if a random person took the photo and shared it, they were morally questionable, but not legally wrong. This sparked a deeper conversation about ethics in the digital age. What is decency worth when curiosity feels justified? A professor of media ethics wrote, "The digital world has collapsed the distance between witnessing and interfering. We believe sharing is caring, but sometimes it's consuming her." Essay went viral, ironically shared thousands of times by the same people who couldn't stop analyzing the picture she criticized. Amid all of this, the emotional weight of the Whittakers resurfaced. Viewers revisited the old footage, remembering Timmy's laughter, his shy expressions, his childlike innocence. Many admitted that seeing him again, even in a blurry grocery store photo, made them feel something warm like relief or closure. Others confessed that it made them uneasy. They wondered whether he would have wanted to be seen like that, whether he even knew his image was circulating the globe again. In interviews with locals, some describe how the family had become a silent presence in regional memory, a mixture of compassion and embarrassment, a mirror of forgotten America. One social worker said, "The Whittakers reminded us that we still fail people in small towns, not because we don't care, but because we stopped seeing them." And in a way, that was what made the photo so powerful. It forced people to look again, even if they didn't like what they saw. But as with every viral moment, the attention had consequences for the woman who first shared the image. Amy, the attention turned hostile. Strangers accused her of lying, of exploiting the family. She deleted her page, her silence replaced by hundreds of voices arguing over her intentions, some sympathetic, others vicious. In one last archive post, she wrote, "I only wanted people to know he's okay. I didn't mean harm." It read like a confession to a crime that wasn't illegal, but still unforgivable in the court of public opinion. By the third week, the narrative had shifted from curiosity to controversy. Major online creators began framing it as a media ethics issue. Videos with titles like "The Exploitation of Timmy Whittaker" and "The Internet Won't Let Him Rest" gathered millions of views. The tone moved from fascination to reflection as audiences realized they were part of a cycle of voyeurism repeating itself year after year. Meanwhile, rumors spread that the original documentarian who filmed the Whittakers had been contacted for comment, though he offered none. Speculation swirled about whether a follow-up documentary might be in production or if new footage existed in private archives. That rumor alone reignited the debate about who truly owned the Whittaker story and who had the right to tell it. Offline mental health advocates began using the moment to draw attention to larger issues about consent, representation, and poverty. One organization released a statement saying, "The Whittaker family story highlights how vulnerable individuals can become symbols stripped of privacy and dignity when exposed to mass media. We must learn from this, not repeat it." Yet even that statement became content, clipped, reposted, debated, because in the digital age, every message becomes performance, even when it pleads for silence. Through all of this, one question lingered unanswered. What did the Whittaker family themselves think of all this? Were they aware of the image? Had anyone told them what was happening online? Were they safe? Were they at peace? No one knew, and that silence only deepened the mystery. Some locals hinted that Timmy had adjusted well to his new environment, that he was in a supported living arrangement with caregivers and a small group of other residents, that he went out occasionally to shop or attend local events. One neighbor said quietly, "He smiles a lot, he likes snacks and music, he's okay." But that account, like so many others, was unverifiable, floating somewhere between rumor and truth. And so the photograph remained suspended in ambiguity, neither proven nor disproven, just existing like a digital ghost, a reminder that sometimes what we want most from others' clarity is what they deserve least, if it means losing their peace. Online, the debate began a slow fatigue, settling in, as it always does, after too many arguments, too many theories, but the image continued to circulate, quietly appearing on new pages and new discussions, because the internet never truly forgets. Once a story is set free, it becomes everyone's to rewrite. The comment sections turned into confessionals, people reflecting on why they cared so much. Some admitted it was empathy, others curiosity, some guilt. One wrote, I think we see a bit of ourselves in them, our own broken families, our own imperfections. Another said, we keep watching because we're afraid to look away from what society usually hides. As night fell over West Virginia, the mountains dark against the horizon and the roads winding quiet again, the online noise felt far away, but its echo remained like the faint hum of a storm just over the hills, the kind that never truly leaves, only waits to be stirred again. And somewhere beyond the noise, maybe Timmy was living quietly. Maybe he laughed that day in the store. Maybe the photo was real. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe the truth mattered less than what it revealed about the people watching. Because in the end, the story of the Whittakers was never just about them. It was about everyone looking through the lens, everyone wondering how far empathy could stretch before it turned into intrusion, everyone asking the same question, what does caring look like when the camera never turns off? If you believe compassion means more than curiosity, comment down below. By the time the third week rolled around, the frenzy over the photo had evolved into something heavier, a reckoning. What began as curiosity had turned into confrontation. The question was no longer simply, is the photo real? But what does it mean if it is? In West Virginia, whispers about the image reached beyond Facebook. Local news outlets that had long ignored the internet noise began to take notice. One small-town reporter from Beckley tried to track down the origin of the picture, only to discover that no one wanted to talk on record. Sources who once freely speculated online clammed up when asked for comment. It was as if a shadow of guilt had fallen over the conversation. For those living in or near Odd, the name Whittaker had always carried weight, part pride, part sorrow. Their story was etched into the landscape. The rusted fences, the gravel roads, the echo of poverty and endurance. But now, that history was being reopened by strangers who didn't understand the quiet rules of small towns. What happens here stays here. Some locals defended the Whittakers fiercely. One woman, who claimed to have known the family for decades, wrote in a private Facebook group, "They deserve peace, not pity. The internet's already taken enough from them." Others disagreed, insisting that the renewed attention might bring help, money, or advocacy. A local pastor even remarked, maybe God's using this to remind people they're still out there. Meanwhile, social media remained a battlefield. Old debates resurfaced. People dissected details of the Whittakers' living conditions, their health, their guardianship. What had been speculation about a single photo became an open autopsy of their entire existence. YouTubers, some with millions of followers, repackaged the controversy with dramatic thumbnails, shocking new Timmy footage, or exposed the truth they don't want you to see. But inside those videos, the truth was no clearer. Viewers got speculation, emotional music, slow pans over still images, all wrapped in the illusion of journalism. One creator dramatically claimed, "We've confirmed through sources that Timmy is in independent care and thriving." Another countered hours later, saying, "That's false. He's been institutionalized for months." Both had no proof. Both racked up views. What few noticed, though, was how the entire spectacle revealed something deeper. How empathy and exploitation can look almost identical online. A mental health advocate from Charleston described it best in a podcast interview. The Whittakers are no longer people. They're content. Every post about them gets engagement. Every mention gets traction. But engagement isn't care. It's consumption. Her words hit hard for many who had followed the story for years. People began asking themselves, when does awareness become voyeurism? When does fascination become harm? In one particularly viral Reddit thread, a user who claimed to be a former social worker weighed in, explaining that even if the photo was genuine, sharing it might have caused real consequences for Timmy. If he's in a supervised living situation, she wrote, that kind of public exposure could violate safety protocols. It could lead to relocation or increased supervision. He might not even understand why. The thread exploded with empathy and guilt. Thousands of users responded, realizing that their desire to check in on the Whittakers might have caused the very disruption they feared for them. Meanwhile, digital detectives continued chasing leads. Some analyzed the grocery store's layout, comparing shelving, signage, and wall paint to every major chain in West Virginia. A few claimed they'd found the exact store near Beckley. Another insisted it was taken in Virginia, hours away. Screenshots and maps flooded forums, but nothing could be confirmed. Then came a second photo. Late one evening, a different Facebook account posted a blurred image that appeared to show the same man, wearing the same jacket, from another angle, outside, near a car. The caption read only, "He looked happy." It spread instantly, reigniting the argument all over again. Some swore it was proof. Others called it manipulation. The woman who posted it deleted her account within a day. At that point, local law enforcement was reportedly made aware of the online frenzy, though they issued no statement. For them, it wasn't a crime, it was chaos. And chaos, in a small town, can spread faster than wildfire. By now, national outlets had caught wind of the story. Journalists debated whether covering it would exploit the family further. One editor at a major paper reportedly said, "We're not touching it unless there's confirmation from the family or an official." None came, so the story lived on in whispers and comments, not headlines. Somewhere in that silence, a few voices tried to restore compassion. One YouTuber, herself a psychologist, made a heartfelt plea to her viewers. "We need to stop treating people like puzzles," she said. "Timmy doesn't owe the world proof of his existence. His story doesn't belong to us." The video struck a chord. It was quieter, slower, and yet it reached millions. The comment section beneath it was filled with confessions. "I used to watch their videos for entertainment," one person wrote. "Now I just feel sad that we keep digging." Another added, "I wanted to know he's okay. But maybe the kindest thing is to stop looking." Offline, the Whittakers' house in Odd remained as it always had, silent. Locals reported that the property, though still standing, was mostly empty now. The legacy of the family lingered like an echo through the trees, a story that could never be untold, no matter how much time passed. And still, somewhere beyond the hills, perhaps Timmy was out there, living, healing, existing quietly, unaware of the global conversation that bore his name. Or perhaps he wasn't. Perhaps the photo was years old, resurfaced by chance. Perhaps none of it mattered, except for what it revealed about everyone else. Because this wasn't really a story about a picture. It was about perspective. The need for closure that drives people to keep reopening wounds. The fragile line between empathy and obsession. And so, as the online debates cooled, a strange peace began to settle. Not because answers had been found, but because exhaustion had replaced outrage. Even those who still believed the photo was real began to question why they cared so deeply. In the end, the photograph had done something extraordinary. It had held up a mirror. It showed a society desperate to connect, yet unable to stop consuming. A culture that calls its curiosity compassion even when it hurts the very people it claims to love. Timmy Whittaker's story had once again united millions of strangers. Not in mockery this time, but in reflection. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. If you believe privacy is a form of dignity, and dignity is worth protecting, comment down below. In the weeks that followed, the world moved on the way it always does after a wave of online fascination The timelines shifted, the hashtags faded, the comments slowed down, and the story of the Whittakers once again slipped beneath the surface like a stone sinking into still water. But for those who had followed it closely, the image of Timmy in that grocery store lingered quietly at the back of their minds like a question that refused to dissolve. Some said it was a moment of hope, proof that life could move forward even after years of hardship. Others said it was proof of nothing at all, a random man caught in the crossfire of speculation. Either way, the picture had already served its purpose. It forced people to look again, to talk again, to remember that behind the noise of the internet, there were real lives unfolding in silence. An odd West Virginia winter was approaching, the air thinner, the days shorter, the town unchanged by all the digital uproar. The roads still wound between the mountains, the same small post office, the same familiar rhythm of a place that never asked for attention but had it forced upon them. The few locals who were willing to speak about the Whittakers did so with care, their tones softer now, less defensive, more resigned. One man said quietly to a visiting reporter, "They're just people trying to live like anyone else. It's the world that keeps knocking on their door." For those online, the debates eventually turned philosophical. One thread that gained traction asked why the human mind struggles to leave mystery untouched, why people feel compelled to document every glimpse of other lives. One user wrote, "Maybe it's because we want to believe that watching means we care." Another replied, "Maybe it's because we don't want to look at our own brokenness." Psychologists began referencing the Whittaker story in discussions about digital empathy, the idea that social media has created a new kind of spectator, one that confuses awareness with action and attention with love. One researcher from the University of Kentucky said, "We've built an emotional economy where caring is measured by clicks and comments. The more tragic the subject, the more visible our compassion becomes. But compassion that needs an audience isn't compassion, it's performance." And yet performance is what the internet thrives on. So even as the outrage faded, the algorithms kept resurfacing old clips, interviews still framed from the original documentary, a reminder that the digital version of the Whittakers could never rest, their image permanently preserved in the archives of public curiosity, their humanity constantly repackaged for nostalgia or shock value. For some, this realization brought guilt. For others, a kind of awakening. A few creators who had once covered the story with dramatic flair began apologizing in later videos, admitting that they had treated the family like fiction. One said, "I got views from their pain, and I didn't see it at the time, but I see it now." Another wrote, "I wanted to believe I was helping, but maybe the kindest thing would have been to stop talking altogether." Meanwhile, among small circles of social workers and advocates, quiet efforts were being made to remind people of what truly mattered. The conversation shifted from who took the photo to how society could better protect families like the Whittakers, how rural poverty, mental health, and isolation were not stories to consume, but realities to address. An article in a West Virginia journal put it bluntly, "The problem isn't that we've seen too much of the Whittakers, it's that we've learned too little from what we saw." As the months passed, the supposed new image of Timmy began to blur into the background noise of the internet, archived, reposted, forgotten, reborn in fragments on new channels without context, without clarity. It became another digital relic, another ghost in the feed, and perhaps that was inevitable, because that's how online stories end, not with resolution, but with repetition. Yet something subtle remained, a shift in tone, a change in the way people spoke about them. Where there had once been mockery, there was now reflection. Where there had been ridicule, there was now restraint. Many who once shared the family's clips for entertainment began speaking about them with empathy. Some even raised funds for mental health charities or for rural outreach programs, inspired by the story that had once entertained them. It was proof that even out of exploitation, understanding could still grow, not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly in the small space between shame and sincerity. And what of the photograph, the one that began it all? No official confirmation, ever came no agency, no journalist, no family member stepped forward to verify it. The origin remained unknown, its authenticity uncertain. And in that uncertainty, it found its final meaning. Maybe it didn't need to be proven. Maybe the truth of it was less important than the conversation it sparked. Because the image of Timmy, whether real or imagined, represented something the internet rarely gives stillness. It captured a moment of ordinary life, a man shopping for groceries, a glimpse so mundane, yet so powerful that millions paused to see it. And in doing so, they remembered that humanity isn't measured by spectacle, but by simplicity. Somewhere in the hills of West Virginia, perhaps Timmy was still living quietly. Perhaps he went to that same store again. Perhaps he laughed with a caregiver or hummed to himself as he walked through the aisles. Perhaps he never knew that across the world people argued over his face. Perhaps that was the mercy of it all. The internet had turned his existence into a myth, but myths often outlive their subjects. They become lessons, parables, reflections of what we fear losing most in ourselves: empathy, authenticity, and the right to be left alone. And so the story of the Whittakers remains unfinished, not because it lacks an ending, but because it belongs to a world that no longer knows how to stop watching. In every repost, in every video, in every thread lies a quiet confession. We are all still trying to understand what it means to care, without control, to witness, without possession. The photograph may fade, the pages may close, the hashtags may die, but the questions it raised will linger. What does it mean to help? What does it mean to respect? What does it mean to see someone fully and still allow them their privacy? For all the noise and confusion, maybe the only honest answer is silence, the kind that honors rather than intrudes, the kind that listens without demanding proof. And in that silence, perhaps Timmy Whittaker is finally free, not as a headline, not as a photo, not as a symbol, but as a person unseen at last and safe in the quiet. If you believe true compassion means letting people live in peace, comment down below. Thank you for watching this video. Click here to watch another video that might interest you.